Today on No Greater Love with Pastor Jeff Kramer.
All of a sudden, Joseph becomes the one, the arm, the link, the helper that helps the family in a time where families were just completely coming apart. They're selling themselves into slavery. We'll see that in a few minutes. People are losing all of their possessions. Everything's going out. The money system here in this chapter, the money system collapsed and everything. And so put yourself in America 2024 right now, right where you sit. You know, we got elections coming up here at the end of this year. We got open borders that are happening right now. We got all that political drama that's going on, just all of this stuff. But think about it from where you're at right now. Think about all of a sudden, man, you've worked real hard. Your 401k is here. My house is here. My whatever, if I have a savings or my job, whatever it is, that all of that is gone. That your money is gone. Everything is gone. It just, flash just happened there in just, a matter of a couple years. What do you do?
He showed his love, taking the cross for us. No greater love than innocent blood.
Welcome to No Greater Love with Pastor Jeff Kramer. Our study in Genesis picks up today with the story of Joseph. Throughout his life, we see a man who endured great difficulty and pain, even though he had a heart to follow and obey God. Whether it was being rejected by his brothers because of envy and jealousy, and having his family torn apart when they sold him into slavery, or being falsely accused by his boss's wife and getting thrown into prison because of it, Joseph always had the encouraging reminder that God was with him. Even in the midst of darkness and the depths of despair, he always trusted in the sovereign hand of God, knowing his love would never fail. At the end of his life, Joseph could confidently make the bold declaration to those who hurt him, "You intended to hurt me, but God intended it all for good. He brought me to this position so I could save the lives of many people." And now, here's Pastor Jeff as we continue our study through Genesis.
The last couple chapters, he was all about fear of losing another son. All of these things have been upon him. And the lessons that we get here, the lessons that we can learn from Jacob is that we do not want to forget the promise. God has given a promise. These are some New Testament stuff that we can hang on to. That as this is being repeated to us, is being recommunicated to the church, these are things that we can hang on to. Genesis 46, picking up in verse number 1, it says this. So Israel, who is that? Is Jacob. He took his journey with all that he had, and he came to Beersheba, and he offered sacrifices to the God of his father Isaac. And then God spoke to Israel in the visions of the night. And he said, "Jacob, Jacob." And he responded, "Here I am." And so he said, "I am God, the God of your fathers. Do not fear to go down to Egypt, for I will make of you a great nation there. I will go down with you to Egypt, and I will also surely bring you up again, and Joseph will put his hand on your eyes." God's giving him a foreshadow of what's going on. He's telling him that the trip is going to be successful. He's telling him that he's right there with him. And he's giving him perspective that in the middle of being 130 years old, being in this place of uncertain about the famine and the difficulty that's upon the family, he's leading a family of 66 different members at this particular point right here. And man, that's a responsibility. By show of hands, who has family, who has kids and everything? Okay, so you guys can understand this, right? Imagine the elongation of that. Imagine you sitting as, a grandma or a grandpa or a great-grandma or a great-grandpa, and you're sitting there over the top of the lineage of your family, and hard times are coming and rocking. And you want to provide not only perspective, but you want to be able to be that hope. Well, his cage is completely rattled here at this stage of the game. And so what do we read? Well, as this thing goes on, it talks about that. But then very quickly, we arrive at verses 8 down through 27 here, and we've got a record of Israel's beginning through Jacob. Follow along, verse number 8. It says, "Now, these were the names of the children of Israel, Jacob and his sons, who went to Egypt." Now he starts labeling this off here. He says, Reuben was Jacob's firstborn. And then the sons of Reuben, he goes into that. He says the sons of Simeon, he goes into that. Verse 11, the sons of Levi. 12, the sons of Judah. Skip ahead, the sons of Issachar. Verse 14, the sons of Zebulun. Okay? And verse number 15 says this. These were the sons of Leah. Now, this is crazy because we start off with wife number 1 here. We bounce to wife number 4. We get to wife number 2, and then we'll finish with wife number 3. So did you get that? Do you see how straightforward that is? Okay, that's why we're going to put it on the screen here for you so you can get an understanding of it. So as we go through this record, again, this is, let's see, how many times? Chapter 29, chapter 30, chapter 35, now chapter 46. We're seeing this 4 different times. Here's the best way that I can share it with you is this, that we can understand this. Again, we're dealing with the tribes of Israel here, coming through Jacob, who is Israel. So wife number 1, hopefully this is on the screen here. Leah, how many sons did she bear? 6. How many daughters?
1.
What's her name?
Dinah.
It's on the screen. Good deal. If you like to keep track of the names of who they are, they're right here within this text, okay? We just read these names to you. Reuben, Simeon, Levi, Judah, Issachar, Zebulun. These are the sons that she had. And so what does it tell us in verse number 33 at the very end of it? Okay, here it is. All the persons, his sons and his daughters, were 33. So there's a number, there's a running total that we're going to start with right there. Now we go on down. After Leah, what's laid out here is Zilpah. This is Leah's maidservant. So you remember when the battle between Leah and Rachel took place, with Jacob and all that on his wedding night and what followed in the years behind that as the sisters started competing with themselves and he got set up and man, he worked real hard, Uncle Laban, to serve and to get this wife, but he got sucker punched in the night and he was given a different wife and he says, wait a minute. He woke up in the morning and goes, who is that? That's not the right one. What happened here? And so he worked 7 more years, okay, and he gets the right wife. And so Leah and Rachel, the battle that ensued between them, Rachel was barren, and so, man, they start volleying up their maidservants to help. I mean, this was, if you couldn't bear a child in this particular patriarchal time back then, it was game over for you. It wasn't going to work out. All that to say is that the battle of the wives start happening here. And wife number 4, which is Leah's maid, Zilpah, she comes in, she bears 2 sons. Take a look at verse number 18. They laid out the sons, and it says, these were the sons of Zilpah. Going down to the end of that verse, it shows that what came through her was 16 persons. So we got 33 and 16. Somebody do the math as we go, okay? Now, we go on a little bit farther. As we get down, we come now to wife number 2. Again, I realize that's out of order. We're going 1, 4, and now 2. This is Rachel, verse 19. Says that the sons of Rachel, okay? Scroll all the way down here. Take your eyes to, let's see, how far am I going down on this? Maybe verse 22. We'll see the end of that. These were the sons of Rachel who were born to Jacob, 14 persons in all. So now we got 14 there. 33, 16, 14. And the only sons that Rachel bore were Joseph and Benjamin. Now we come to wife number 3, which is the final one in this list. This is Bilhah. This is Rachel's maid, and she bore 2 more sons, Dan and Naphtali. And verse number 25 tells us this, that these were the sons of Bilhah, whom Laban gave to Rachel, his daughter, and she bore these to Jacob. Here it is, 7 persons in all. How many? What's that number? How many people do we have there? 70 people. Okay. So pay attention. Let me take a look at your eyes. I know you guys are writing this stuff down, but let me take a look at your eyes here. I need you to understand this, or I encourage you to understand this. That's the history lesson that we just got. There are a total of 70 people here that are moving through this. Genesis 46 and 27, okay? And what happens here is everybody came through Jacob. They came through Israel. And what they're doing now, with the exception of 4, they're going back into Egypt. 66 people are moving back into Egypt where Joseph is at with his wife and his 2 sons. And if you can apprehend this with a little sneak peek of moving forward, because this is the history lesson here, turn in your Bible a couple pages to the right, like 3 pages to the right, to the book of Exodus. Exodus chapter 1. Here in Exodus chapter 1, we know that this takes place about 300 years after Joseph dies. And these 70 people, here it is, don't miss it. These 70 people in that course of 300 years turn into 2 million people, which is about a 3% a year growth rate for Israel. It was explosive. Exodus chapter 1, it tells us this in verse number 7. It says, but the children of Israel were fruitful and they increased abundantly. They multiplied and they grew exceedingly mighty, and the land was filled with them. So what are we knowing? Well, we know that Genesis is setting up the story as it's repeating the Israel and the 12 tribes, the 12 sons, as to what will take place in the next book. So as we're arcing over the top of the scriptures, this is what Wednesday night is about here for us in this season, is that we're trying to capture the big picture of Genesis. Why is it there, and why are they telling us these details? Why has God given us these details at this moment? It's so that we continue to follow along with that redemption story. God already destroyed the earth once because of sin under Noah, right? And he used Noah to repopulate the earth, and man, he's calling out a special people to himself. What's the name of those special people? It starts with an I. Israel. That's it. Is God done with Israel right now in 2024? Is God done with Israel? How many years do we have left for him to do something with Israel? How many years is it? At least 7 years. There it is. The 7-year tribulation period. He's dealing with Israel in those final years. It's that final week of years that Daniel talks about that will take place. But the history lesson is this, is just understanding that these 70 people, including Jacob, his wife, and his 2 sons, that these 70 people turn into about 2 million people over the course of 300 years. And that's what we're looking at, because Moses comes on the scene next in Exodus, and he becomes that great leader to draw out, and we see it go forward. What's the point? Here it is. Don't miss it. The fulfillment of the blessing out of Genesis 28, verses 3 and 4. This is Isaac blessing Jacob. Again, Jacob, okay? Here's what he says. Genesis 28, verses 3 and 4. Isaac says to Jacob, he says, may God Almighty bless you and make you fruitful and multiply you, that you may be an assembly of peoples, and give you the blessings of Abraham to you and your descendants with you, that you may inherit the land in which you are a stranger, which God gave to Abraham. So just understand that in the perspective of Genesis 46, that first half, all the way up to about verse 27 or so, that what we are seeing is just the moving parts of Jacob. The promise of God's peace, or presence, I should say, was with Jacob, but Jacob was the focus right there. He's moving. God is moving him. And now if we were to take that and turn that back around into our lives, to draw just some practical application here, if you will, that we can learn here because of how faithful God is from these Old Testament pages here. We can take learning, we can take away hope, and we can understand that as God moves us through the avenues of the years of our life, that he has something very specifically that he's working out. And you and I are just like Jacob in the short run. It's like we get up to a scary moment, and it's like we just get a little bit waffly right there. What I want to build us up together as a church in is that we're seeing God's great loving character. Thus, when we approach that next season, whatever the season is for you or for me or for us together as a church, whatever that season is, may we take great comfort and hope in knowing that God's presence has gone before us, and that his character remains with us. Amen. And thus we can walk in peace, even though it might be something that is scary. Can we understand that practically? Yes? Okay, good. All right, let us move on here to watch how this chapter closes out here. 46. So verses 28 down through into the chapter right there, whatever it is, 34 or so. What do we find in this? Then he sent Judah. Jacob sent Judah before him to Joseph to point out to him the way to go to Goshen and all that. And so what do I want to share with this? These final verses in here are nothing more than this. That all of a sudden there's going to be this reunion that takes place right here. And in verse number 30, I guess is what it looks like, that you have Jacob seeing Joseph, his son, finally, after this extended period of time. It was 22 years. And 22 years earlier, right? Remember, they brought the coat of many colors that had animal blood all over the top of it. And the sons came back, and they reported to dad. It's like, does this belong to your youngest son? And they were playing all innocent, and they knew exactly what they'd done. Can you imagine that emotional moment? That if you lost a child 22 years earlier as a teenager, 22 years of time has gone by, that reunification is happening there. And literally, they were seeing each other for the first time. A dad who thought his son had died. What is that emotional response that comes out of that? That had to have been a heavy, heavy, heavy moment. But man, amazing to see how God turns that in Joseph's life and even blesses Jacob through this, that in fact he was not dead, but God had sent him ahead to be able to provide for the family because the family was in this place. The famine was there, right? And they were struggling with subsistence and everybody comes down. 66 people make that migration, if you will. All right, we come to the second idea of tonight. Turn ahead to next chapter, 47. Okay, what's our idea? Our idea is continue living by faith. Follow along as I read the first 12 verses. It says, then Joseph, he went and he told Pharaoh and he said that my father and my brothers, their flocks and their herds and all that they possess have come from the land of Canaan. And indeed, they are in the land of Goshen. And he took 5 men from among his brothers and he presented them to Pharaoh. And then Pharaoh said to his brothers, he says, what is your occupation? And they said to Pharaoh, your servants are shepherds, both we and our fathers. And they said to Pharaoh that we have come to dwell in the land because your servants have no pasture for their flocks, for the famine is severe in the land of Canaan. Now, therefore, please let your servants dwell in the land of Goshen. And then Pharaoh, he spoke to Joseph saying that your father and your brothers have come to you. The land of Egypt is before you. Have your father and your brothers dwell in the best of the land. Let them dwell in the land of Goshen. And if you know of any competent men among them, well, then make them chief herdsmen over my livestock. And then Joseph, he brought in his father, Jacob, and he set him before Pharaoh. And Jacob blessed Pharaoh. And Pharaoh said to Jacob, you're really wrinkly. How old are you? That was a different translation right there. How old are you? He says. And Jacob said to Pharaoh, he says, the days of the years of my pilgrimage are 130 years. Few and evil have been the days of the years of my life, and they have not attained to the days of the years of the life of my fathers in the days of their pilgrimage. Basically, he says, I'm 130 years old. Time's gone by like a flash, but I haven't quite got to where my parents have gotten to. Okay, that's what he says. Verse 10. So Jacob blessed Pharaoh, and he went out from before Pharaoh. And Joseph, he situated his father and his brothers, and he gave them a possession in the land of Egypt, in the best of the land, in the land of the Ramses, and Pharaoh had commanded. It says, then Joseph provided his father, his brothers, and all of his father's household, provided them with bread according to the number in their families. So all of that to say that we are to continue to live by faith. Pharaoh goes to this place, he honors Joseph's family, and he gives them a place to live with him. That's all that took place. And this is special right here. Let's not miss this. You know, the blessings that God is able to provide for us, this is what he worked out within this family. And Joseph knew that God had that special plan. He knew it. And man, I think it's a remarkable character study that as we look at Joseph and see how he hung in there for 13 years of what I would classify as bad treatment and maybe partially living in hell because he did some time in prison there, if you will. And just seeing how he still held perspective and he remained faithful. So may we grab hold of that character, if you will, of what he's done and realize, just like he did, he said, man, God's got to do something good. And here it is. Here is maybe the partial fulfillment of that is that all of a sudden, Joseph becomes the one, the arm, the link, the helper that helps the family in a time where families were just completely coming apart. They're selling themselves into slavery. We'll see that in a few minutes. People are losing all of their possessions. Everything's going out. The money system here in this chapter, the money system collapsed and everything. And so put yourself in America, 2024, right now, right where you sit. We got elections coming up here at the end of this year. We got open borders that are happening right now. We got all that political drama that's going on, just all of this stuff. But think about it from where you're at right now. Think about all of a sudden, man, you've worked real hard. Your 401k is here. My house is here. My whatever, if I have a savings or my job, whatever it is, that all of that is gone. That your money is gone. Everything is gone. It just, flash just happened there in just, a matter of a couple years. What do? Yeah, suddenly we're understanding how radical of a perspective and a story this is when it pulls those heartstrings and it becomes personal to us. This is what is happening in this chapter. And yet God made a way for his people. And Joseph was the guy second in command. And man, for the 66 members of his family that were coming out of Canaan, he provided for all of them. Look with me, verses 13 down through 26 now, okay? Now it just gets gnarly right here, okay? It says, now there was no bread in all the land, for the famine was very severe. So the land of Egypt and the land of Canaan, they languished because of the famine. And Joseph, he gathered up all the money that was found in the land of Egypt and in the land of Canaan for the grain which they bought, and Joseph brought the money into Pharaoh's house. So when the money failed in the land of Egypt and in the land of Canaan, all the Egyptians, they came to Joseph and they said, give us bread, for why should we die in your presence? For the money has failed. Man, think ahead to what's going to happen. You think inflation is bad now. Think about it in the time of the tribulation period. The church is not going to be here. There will be people that get saved during the tribulation period, right? You know, those are the tribulation saints. There will still be a ministry that's going on earth. We know that God will raise up. He'll take 12,000 members out of the 12 tribes of Israel, 144,000 people, and they will become his messengers, his evangelists, if you will. You know, the people that are proclaiming truth. And if that doesn't accomplish it, because it never does, God sends the angels around the globe heralding the gospel message. That is absolutely crazy because people still resist. Even though an angel from heaven is proclaiming these truths. You see, it's a heart matter, man. But that will all take place. The church, you guys are going to be gone, okay? You're going to be in heaven. You're not going to see that. But we get a snapshot of it in the book of Revelation, okay? We can see these things occurring. And so at this point, again, the money's done. It's just gone. Verse 17, it says, and so they brought their livestock to Joseph, and Joseph gave them bread in exchange for their horses, the flocks, the cattle of the herds, and the donkeys. So are you getting this? Okay, are you understanding this? Right? You know, because that was their life, right? I mean, they're turning everything in where they had the ability to make any type of money. Everything is being surrendered. That's crazy. It says, thus he fed them with bread in exchange for all their livestock that year. Okay, so we've got to be roughly 3, maybe a little more than 3 years into the famine at this point. Verse 18, he says, when that year had ended, they came to him the next year. Oh man. And they said to him, we will not hide from my Lord that our money is gone. My Lord also has our herds of livestock. There is nothing left in the sight of my Lord but our bodies and our lands. Why should we die before your eyes, both we and our land? Buy us and our land for bread, and we and our land will be servants of Pharaoh. Give us seed that we may live and not die, that the land may not be desolate. And then Joseph, he bought all the land of Egypt for Pharaoh. For every man of the Egyptians sold his field because the famine was severe upon them. So the land became Pharaoh's. Now, I know I told that to you up front, what was happening. The money system failed. They lost all their possessions. They sold their lands. And then finally they sold themselves into this place of slavery. This didn't happen overnight. It was collectively 7 years. But we're sitting here somewhere maybe 4 years plus into this time of famine and the activity that is happening. We have to understand that the God's provision as he laid out for them. And I would suggest to you that even as God has laid out for us as the church, it rises above the tides of all of the difficulties that are here.
That's all for today. Join us for our next broadcast of No Greater Love with Pastor Jeff Kramer, weekdays at 10:30 a.m. No Greater Love is an outreach ministry of Westminster Calvary and is supported by listeners like you. If you would like to partner with us, please text GIVE to 720-354-6485. Your donation of any amount helps keep No Greater Love on the air, ministering to thousands across the Front Range. We would like to personally invite you to join us for our weekly worship services, Sundays at 8 or 10 a.m. and Wednesdays at 6:30 p.m. We are located in Westminster, Colorado, on the northeast corner of Church Ranch and Wadsworth Parkway, near the Fossa Fitness. If you're not local, tune into the weekly live stream on our web campus, app, Roku, or on Apple TV. Have you downloaded the free Westminster Calvary app yet? You can stay up to date on upcoming events, join a small group, request prayer, and watch live worship services. Just search Westminster Calvary on your favorite app store today. Lastly, we're a church that's ready to serve you. If we can do so, give us a call at 303-223-4640. And remember, there's no greater love than when Jesus gave up his life for you and me. Thanks, and God bless.